everybody, welcome to Midpoint. So the other day I was working in the kitchen at the sink and I noticed that there was a salamander. It was pretty big and pretty dark, and I noticed that this salamander was sitting on our screen for our screen room. So I didn't really think anything of it. Salamanders are everywhere. So I just continued on. Well, over the course of probably about a week or so, I'm not exactly sure how many days, I noticed that this same exact salamander continued to be on the screen, and on the other side of the screen, there was an even bigger salamander and half of its tail was cut off. And these two salamanders were on top of each other with the screen in the middle, and they were just sitting there. And a lot of the time I'd look out, I would see them, and they were literally just sitting there the entire time. I don't know if they were communicating or what, but they were just there. And they would do this day after day after day. And I thought, I wonder if they're family or something like that. So I got it in my head that I would try to rescue this salamander that was stuck inside of our screen room. So I go and, I get a cup and a plate, a plastic one, and a paper plate. And I thought I'll just put it on the screen and catch it, and then put the paper plate underneath and capture it and take it outside. Well, every time I would go to open up the door to the screen room, the salamander would just run away, obviously. So I thought, okay, well, I look all around, I'm trying to find the salamander in our screen room, and I could not find it anywhere. So I literally said out loud, I'm trying to help you. Where are you? I'm trying to get you out. And, I couldn't find it. So I thought, okay, I'll go back inside. It's fine. So I went back inside, and a little bit later, I saw the salamander again. So I thought, oh, great. I'll try to go really quiet. So, I try to go quiet, and salamanders, I don't know how far they can see or, what their senses are like. But needless to say, as soon as I opened that door, took off running again and hid. So I'm looking all around again, trying to find this salamander. And I said again, I'm trying to help you. Can you please come out? I can't find you. I am trying to get you out to freedom. Didn't work. So I go back inside again. Well, this is no lie. This happened 4 or 5 times, right? That I tried to get the salamander outside with no luck. So I end up going in to the kitchen one day, a few days later, and I see this salamander, and I thought, okay, I'm going to open the door to the screen room, and maybe he'll just run out. It's worth a shot, right? I mean, I don't know how else to rescue this salamander that's stuck inside our screen room. So I open the door and I leave it open, and curious me wants to know if it really gets out or not. So I go in and I stand in the kitchen window, and I stand there, it's no lie, for 20 minutes, okay? And I am just sitting there watching. Well, all of a sudden, this little salamander comes out, okay? And I think maybe that's him, but I can't really tell because he wasn't next to the other one, that was on the screen that was a really big one. So I couldn't really tell if it was that one or not. So it comes up and it just kind of sits on a stand that's by the door. So it's sitting there for a little bit of time, maybe 5 or 10 minutes. And then it goes a little bit closer to the door. I thought, oh, good, it's going to get out. So it goes a little bit closer again, and it literally goes and it sits at the door, and it stops, just stops. Another salamander comes up, no lie, and it's sitting there, and I don't know if they communicated or what happened, but the one salamander runs out the door. I was like, oh, perfect, it went out. That salamander, no lie, literally comes running right back inside, and it goes back on the stand. I was like, I'm trying to help you out, So I sit there and watch a little bit longer, and the salamander gets back down, stands right by the wide open door, okay? And it just stops. and it starts to eat a few bugs that were there. And then it goes back up onto the stand. And I was like, okay. So I wait another few minutes, right? By this time, it was like 30 minutes has gone by. And all of a sudden, this big salamander comes up on the stand. And I was like, oh, I think that's it. So I'm watching, right? And this big salamander, he's just sitting there watching this other one run up to the door, eat a bug, and go back. And he's just sitting there watching this happen like 4 or 5 times. So this big salamander finally decides to go down and sit by the door for a minute. And then after like 40 minutes, I thought, okay, dude, like I have sat here for this long. I have to see it through, right? I've invested so much time into this. I got to see what happens. So it's like 40 minutes have gone by, right? And the big salamander runs out the door. And I thought, oh, perfect. I'm going to go run and close the door so it can't come back in, okay? Meanwhile, this other little salamander is literally still going to get the bugs by the door and then goes right back up. There's a wide open door to a world of freedom. And he's just sitting there completely content to just eat the bugs and stay inside. I thought, okay, whatever. You had your chance. You literally went out the door and then you came back in. That's on you. So I close the door. I go back inside. I thought, oh, perfect. Finally, thank you, Jesus. The salamander's out. It can go be with its family now. Okay. So a very short time later, it was the same day, right? I go to the kitchen to do something at the sink. And I look and I see this salamander back on the screen. I was like, you got to be kidding me. I just let you out. How did you get back in? Well, it was not the same salamander that I thought I was rescuing, right? Another one took advantage of the open door and just left. But it was not my initial one that I was trying to save. So I waited. Thought, I don't know how to get this thing out. So I waited. Well, it finally went on a chair that was sitting right by the door. And I thought, I wonder if I can run, open up the door, get the chair out the door and just close it. So I'm waiting, right? This is like a very true story, by the way. So I'm waiting. So I do this, right? I open the door very slowly and it runs down inside the chair. So I grab the chair. I don't throw it out because I don't want to hurt the salamander, but I get it out very quickly and I close the door and then I just stand there and wait. Well, guess what I saw on that chair outside the door? It was the very salamander that I was trying to save in the first place. And it popped its head up and I thought, oh, thank you, Jesus. Finally, right? Like, I don't have to yell at this thing anymore. I'm trying to save you. Will you just work with me? Right? So I go inside. All is well. Well, it got me thinking, right? There are a lot of various types of people out in the world, right? But how many times has God tried to nudge us in the right direction and we are just completely content to stay in our own little bubble? And God has this huge plan for us and we're just happy, right there in our own bubble. We don't need to go out. We have everything we need here. We're very content. We're very comfortable. We don't need to go out and explore the world. We're just okay. Have you ever been in that place before? I compared these 3 different salamanders to how we can be at times, right? The first one had a wide open door. It ran out the door, but then it came back to the comfortable place, to the place where it knew it had the food, it knew it had shelter, it knew it had all these things. And instead of exploring the wide open world that has so many more things to offer, it was completely content to stay in a closed space where it had everything it needed. It was comfortable. It was okay. Like, nah, I don't need to go out there. I'm good. I'm going to stay here. Then there was a second one who took advantage of a wide open door and it saw its escape and it thought, I'm not going to stay here anymore. I'm going to go out there where I know there's a way more things to offer for me, right? And it took off. It was kind of sat there for a second to make sure everything was okay, and then out the door it went, right? And then there was a third salamander where I tried and I tried and I tried to rescue that thing over and over again, but it kept running away from me until finally it was by the door, and I threw it out there to where it couldn't come back, and I closed the door. It could not come back in. There was no way for it to come back in. And it finally had to leave and go out and enjoy all that God had out here for it, right? Have you ever been like one of those three, where you're really comfortable in your safe place? You don't need to go out and explore. You don't want to try what God has for you, and you just stay here and say, nope, I'm not going out there. I'm staying right here. Or have you taken advantage of maybe an open door where you saw it and you just took off running and you didn't look back? Or maybe God had to push you out that door, right, into what he has for you. In Proverbs 6, it says, acknowledge God in all your ways and he will direct your paths. Can I encourage you tonight to be like that second salamander, to where you don't just stay complacent, you don't stay in your comfortable space where you know your comfort zone, where you know that things are okay, but you're not really exploring the world, you're not really doing what God has for you. You're not really taking that leap of faith and maybe saying, yes, God, I'm going to do that next step. I'm going to take that next step. But you just say, I think I'm just going to stay right here. Can I encourage you to not be the one where God has to literally push you out the door to get you to do it? But when he just gives you that still small voice inside that says, why don't you do this? Why don't you try this? Why don't you go here? Why don't you not go there? Why don't you befriend this person? You need to get away from that person. Why don't you try this? I think that this would be a great fit for you. Can I encourage you to listen? Because God knows everything. He ultimately knows the best plan for you. He knows the friends you need to have. He knows the people you need to stay away from. He knows the exciting plans, the ministry, the people that you are to reach. He knows all of those things, and he knows what's best for you. All we have to do is say yes and be a willing vessel. And when God opens that door, we can't wait to run through it, because we know that what God has for us out there is better than what we have right here. I would encourage you to listen to God and just say yes. Take that first step, even if it's right on the other side of that door and that's where you stop. At least when God says it, you walk through that door and you take that first step. I hope you've been encouraged tonight. We will see you right back here next week at 8 p.m. for Midpoint. Have a blessed and fantastic week.